As a small business, you compete with the mega job boards and things like that. So I think there's just that inability to really get your name out there on a big scale to make that big impact. So there are great job boards out there, but there are also hundreds of thousands of applicants on those big job boards. And moms get frustrated and I think quit because they're not getting any response from all of these bigger platforms out there. I think they also struggle with the career gap because a lot of moms, if they've taken 1 to 5, 10 years off to be at home with their kids, they feel like there's no way anyone's going to hire me now. I've been at home too long. I don't have any current skills. And again, that's false.
Lesley, welcome to the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast, the podcast for women founders who are done with being humble and ready to be heard. We're so excited you're joining us today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your show. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we always love a good conversation, and we always love to start it with a nice, juicy question. So we're going to ask you, if we were to hand you a magic wand today, what change would you make in the world?
That is such a great question. And I know that I'm going to answer it right now. And then tonight I'm going to go, oh my goodness, I should have said blah, blah, blah. But the first thing, because I am so passionate about helping moms prioritize their faith and family and figure out a way to work from home, as well as help small businesses hire, amazing talent, I would have to say my magic wand would be to educate and equip moms in that way, as well as small businesses. I think there's a lot of challenges and myths out there that prevent the two from coming together, because I know it's almost like matchmaking, except for in the business and the mom world. And I just have so many great testimonies from both sides that warm my heart and give me such satisfaction on what I do that I wish I could help more connections like that. But, as a small business, you compete with the mega job boards and things like that. So I think there's just that inability to really get your name out there on a big scale to make that big impact. So I think that would be one of the ways I would wave that magic wand.
Yes, I love that. And it's so true, like the disconnect between what we see and think the world is and what reality is, because we do know that so many women start small businesses because they need freedom and flexibility in their lifestyle. I mean, me included. That was exactly my story and exactly my experience. So let's talk about some of those challenges for women, particularly maybe young moms who are trying to figure it all out. And, that famous word balance that I don't really believe exists, but we're all trying to get the scales to make a little bit of sense for us. Like, what are some of those challenges? Talk about that. Let's dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think one of the challenges is not knowing where to look. Like I said previously, there are great job boards out there, but there are also hundreds of thousands of applicants on those big job boards. And moms get frustrated and I think quit because they're not getting any response from all of these bigger platforms out there. And they don't know there's smaller platforms like Hire My Mom that can help connect you to great jobs. I think they also struggle with the career gap because a lot of moms, if they've taken 1 to 5, 10 years off to be at home with their kids, they feel like there's no way anyone's going to hire me now. I've been at home too long. I don't have any current skills. And again, that's false. There are a lot of things you do as a mom that are soft skills that apply directly to working from home and remote jobs. You may not get a super high paying job right off the bat, but you start small and you build those skills so that you can get something that's really sustainable for you. You may not get your dream job right off the bat. You may just get a 5 or 10 hour a week job, but starting small and continuing to develop those skills carries a lot of moms into the next phase of their career at working from home.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we know like it sometimes you need that flexible time. Sometimes you might not only need 10 hours and sometimes you might need to fill 40 hours, right? To make ends meet
Right.
at the end of the day. We know how tough it can be. And everyone's in different situations. Some will be single moms, some will be, and maybe looking after parents as well. Right.
Right.
So it is a challenging time of life. And the worst thing is when you're financially insecure. You know,
Yes.
we love to talk about money on this podcast because we think it's something that we don't talk about enough as women. And being employed is a part of that conversation. And finding help when you are a business owner scaling is also part of that conversation. So there's two great sides to this and how you help people. You help the people who need services, and you help people who have skills get employed.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it's there are moms in so many different phases of life that use our service. Like you said, moms of infants, that may only have 5 or 10 hours a week. And then there are moms of school age kids who have, more like 6 or 7 hours a day to work. And then you have moms that are either empty nesters or they're caring for aging parents. And a lot of these moms are still looking for that flexibility. That's like their number one. Like they might want 40 hours, but it may not be 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. Some people that'll work for just fine. But like I mentioned before we started recording, we have 4 kids, only one at home. She's a senior, so we're about to be empty nesting. But do I want to trade in my card for flexibility? Absolutely not, because she'll be playing college volleyball. And I plan to be at every single home game that I can be, and that means travel. And so I don't know that flexibility as a mom and as a grandparent, if that ever would change. I used to think when I first started working from home 30 years ago, oh, when my kids are in school, I'll go back to a corporate job. Ha, that never happened.
That is such a beautiful story. I love how you've born this business out of your own experience, Lesley. Tell us, what was the origin? What was that spark that you had that said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to create opportunity for so many women?
Yeah. And it was something born out of my heart's desire for myself. And then I realized I'm not the only one who has this desire. So I had just finished my master's degree in PR and marketing and began my first job. It was actually a golf school that I was working for, and I was promoting the golf tour clinics around the country. So it wasn't even really a corporate job, but when I got pregnant in that very first job, I went to my employer. This was 1994, and said, "Hey, I love my job. I really want to come back, but I had just had my baby." And I said, "But I'm miserable." I literally was crying every day. And it wasn't like postpartum crying. It was like, I want to be with her more than I am crying. Um, and it was an 8 to 5 job, so that meant dropping her off at like 7 something and getting her at like 5:30. So it was a long day. And back 30 years ago, employers weren't open to remote work. I mean, I don't know anybody at the time that worked from home, so they said no, but they were very sympathetic to my desire to be at home. So I quit that job, but I couldn't quit without making money, because we had just bought our first house, brand new, family and everything. So I didn't want to quit working. But I also needed to work. So I began freelancing. And, this was back before the internet really hit, or, obviously social media, cell phones, none of that was really available yet. So that meant door knocking and phone calls and old school networking and that sort of thing. And so it was hard. It was really hard to get going, but I was determined. I think that was my secret sauce, was a determination and a passion. And, I tell people all the time, it wasn't because I was the smartest person in the world or I had an entrepreneurial bent, because I don't believe that was my natural gifting at the time, but I was determined and I was passionate. So I began, finding the clients, and then I, had this realization, I cannot be the only mom trying to do this, and in the United States is where my thoughts were at the time. And I thought, well, I've got this PR background. What if I could try to find other moms who were either working at home or wanting to, and start a kind of like a chamber of commerce or an association? Because I worked in college, I did an internship for an association. So I kind of knew how they worked. Not really, but enough to put my foot in the water and figure it out. And so I did. I started an association. It was called Home Based Working Moms. And I started that in 1996. So my baby was about a year old at the time. And that quickly grew because I was able to use my public relations background and get some good publicity in magazines and radio interviews and TV interviews and things like that. So I did that for about 14 years. And we provided like a print newsletter. Everything was mailed out at the time. We had like member profiles and, profiled people to share what they did and how they started. Um, and also monetized it with advertising, so somebody could pay to put an ad in. So there was a free membership and a paid membership. So that's what I was doing for about 14 years. And then in about 2006, I was noticing that our world, if you will, the US at least, was becoming more open to working from home. It was becoming more culturally acceptable, if you will. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could create a platform where I could almost be like a dating site, like Match.com, but not for dating, for matching moms and businesses who are looking to hire. So that's where the idea for Hire My Mom came in. And so I began working on having that website developed in 2006 and launched it in 2007. So 19 years ago now. And then
Wow.
eventually I rolled my first website, just kind of phased it out and just focused exclusively on Hire My Mom.
Well, give us an idea of what the scale of your business is like now.
Yeah, so 19 years in, we serve primarily moms and women. Anyone can sign up, but that's our target market. And then on the business side, we work with micro, small, and small businesses. So it's anything from one person businesses like coaches, consultants, real estate agents, up to agencies like digital marketing agencies. We even have some law firms, some doctors, some moving companies, a whole lot of different small businesses that have tapped into the whole idea that, hey, I can hire some really great, talented, primarily moms, but not everybody, to do these jobs from home. So, yeah, we started, like I said, 19 years ago when there was not much competition. But in the last, I'd say 5 years, it's been difficult to stand out amidst all of the big names with the big budgets.
Ah, interesting. And I'm curious, what are you doing other than appearing on podcasts, of course, to help
Yes.
yourself stand out and to help continue to grow your brand?
Yeah. So we do continual email marketing. That's number one. We also do a lot of social media. We do reels and posts and things on all the different platforms. We do Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. When we can, like I said, trying to compete with some of the mega job sites gets difficult at times because they'll get all the keywords you want and it's hard to bid against some of them. But we're also very, very close to launching our very first web app, which will really revolutionize our platform. So our platform, the back end of it is about 5 years old, and in technology, 5 years is a long time. So we've had this app in development for 9 months now. So I just talked to the company this week, and we're fingers crossed, praying that we can have it ready this weekend. So I think that's going to really help us as far as making the platform so much more interactive, intuitive. It will have so many more features than we have now. So I'm really excited about that.
Amazing. I love your story. And I ask those questions because I think other people need to know that this is how business can work. It can start small, it can grow, you can
Mhm.
evolve, you can add technology and AI to assist and things
Yes.
like apps. And that's how really you can grow a business and compete with big names. Because part of the reason I think a lot of women get stuck in unhappy corporate jobs and have this idea and never take it, to market is because they fear that they cannot compete. The market's
Mhm.
too saturated. I can't, how can I go against Amazon with an e-commerce site? How can I? But the reality is it is possible. And it's about the
Mhm.
keep going and figuring it out and figuring out what works for you in your niche.
And differentiating yourself from, the other competitors. So you're never going to be Amazon, but what can you offer that's different than Amazon, that certain people, that's going to speak directly to them? So like with Hire My Mom, the big corporate companies could care less about us. We are not, for them, nor do we try to cater to them. We also don't cater to college graduates. You have to know what your niche is and try to be the best that you can be for your niche.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation because this is exactly what people think. Oh, there's already a big monolith out there doing what I want to do, so I won't bother. Or, it's just going to be hard. And I challenge that. I absolutely challenge that because we have a competitive advantage as a small player, as the pioneer that you are. We have the
Mhm.
advantage that we can show up as we are. Lesley Pyle, Laura Bell, Vicki Abraham. These are people, we're putting a name, we're putting a personality, we're putting a real person behind the service, which creates a relationship. How often can you
Mhm.
have a relationship with the big player? So I really love to
Right.
challenge women who think this way, that we can't compete. Of course, you don't need to compete. It's not about competing. It's about attracting the people who want to work with you. And you create your story. You share that part of you that people buy from people in the end. We don't buy services because
Mhm.
we need the service. We don't. If I'm a business and I'm looking to hire someone, I'm going to come to hire my mum because I love the values that you share. I love the principle of how it started. I love the idea of giving back to my community and hiring someone within my community who actually gives a damn, who wants the job,
Mhm.
who has already got the experience. Whether they have experience in that skill set is irrelevant. They have experience as a valued team member, and that's what I want on my team. And there's so many. You're not competing. You're going at it when it's a different game. And I love. I mean, I think there are people out there. I know there are people out there who love to support community. We love to support each
Mhm.
other. Women will support women, and this is what we play on. This is what we lean into because we all believe the same thing. We're all running the same race, if it's a race, and share our values.
Mhm.
So, this is such a great conversation to really lift the lid on this and help people see it differently.
Yes. And that's one of the things we use in our marketing is the fact that you can actually get in touch with a human at Hire My Mom. If you place an ad on one of the mega job boards, there's absolutely no way to talk to a human if you have questions or something's not working or whatever it might be. So there are things as a small business that you can offer your customers that the large companies cannot. And a lot of times they are looking for that human touch and that person that they can, do business with versus a big, huge mega corporation.
I have a story. I went to a market. It was just a regular market, and there was a chap there who was selling a type of relish. So you can buy relishes in every supermarket in the planet, right?
Mhm.
And I walked away from that store with $20 worth of relish. Why? Because he shared with me his origin story. He told me why he got into this, why he's so passionate about making relish. And that story sticks with me because we can each take that. We can each do that and know that it's the story that sells. It's really not the thing you're selling that people are buying. They're buying you. They want to see you, they want to know you. And I think that's the one thing that we can do as small and independent businesses.
Mhm. Yes, I agree.
And there's always that sort of speedboat versus cruise ship argument. Those big monolithic companies, they're cruise ships. It takes a lot to turn them. Whereas those of us with the small businesses are speedboats. We can change direction at any time. And we can do things quickly and we can move fast and we can change with the market. And that's a beautiful thing. So we need more small businesses out there. We need more small and but on the flip side of that, we need solo entrepreneurs to know that there's help out there too. So I love that we're talking both sides of this conversation because often we find there are people who are out there doing the solo entrepreneur thing, trying to figure out, trying to be an accountant and a bookkeeper and the marketing expert and the the social media and all the things and are burning out and overwhelmed. They can know that they could hire someone for 5 hours a week to help them with one aspect of that business. That could be a game changing for them to grow their business.
And I think what we've learned is there's such fear around hiring, especially that first time, because they're like, do I, how do I know that they're going to do a good job? And how do I know how to hire? And will I have enough money? And, all these questions, and I always say, write down all of those fears and questions and then put the worst scenario. And then what? Usually it's not that big of a deal. If you can't afford them for the 10 hours you hired them for, then say, hey, can I pay you for 5 hours? Build up to that. It's not going to be the end of the world. So, I always say, you need to hire when there are 5 things you notice in your business. One, your customer service is slipping because, you're trying to do everything probably. You're wearing too many hats. You don't really, aren't able to really focus on what you're good at because you're too busy doing all of the other tasks. You're also probably working too many hours. You might be, not spending the time that you want to with your family or on your health or whatever other priorities you have. Um, Another one is you don't have the capacity to take on new business. So, how can you grow your business? You're going to be plateaued out if you don't hire. And I say a lot of times, if you just hire a virtual assistant for 10 hours a week, you won't believe how much time that frees you up to grow your business. And what you pay the VA will quickly be offset by the new business and the new things that you're able to do with that extra time.
Those are great tips. Thank you for, see, I think that's really tangible, feet on the ground information. Check in with yourself if you're watching this now and say, do I recognize any of those symptoms in my business? And if I do, maybe it's time to start looking to hire. And it can be a little fearful, as you said, Lesley, when we think about growing our business and adding team members and what all that brings. And yet, when we trust ourselves as women who have made it this far, trusting ourselves, knowing that we have the instinct and that we can ask for help, we can lean into community, then it really can take some of that heat out and really just allow us to say yes to ourselves and to our business.
We do, because we cater to small businesses and micro businesses. We do have a lot of resources for those people that are either afraid to hire or they have questions about hiring. So, if we could be of any help, we don't charge for it or anything. We just really try to help people get over that first hurdle, especially hiring for the first time. In fact, one of the things that we offer is a free guide on hiring for the first time, or maybe not the first time, but just a general guide to hiring, including like for how much typical pay rates are for different positions. So if that's something that your audience is interested in, they can get it on our website. It's at hiremymom.com/podcast.
Oh, amazing. Thank you for that gift. Because I was just going to say, let's answer some questions right here that somebody might have. Let's say you are that woman you just described, someone who is the customer service is slipping. They can't take on more work because they're maxed out. So they're in that place, but they've never hired someone before. They're coming to you going, I have no idea what to do. Help me take this first step. What's that first step advice for them?
I say write down, what's everything that you do in a day or a week, and then look at that and think, okay, what are the things that I don't have to do that someone else could do for me, and how much time could I free up myself? So, if you're a little bit on the timid side about not wanting to hire too much in the beginning, look at a 10-hour a week. What can you offset, take off your plate for, 10 hours a week? Write those down. You can even use Chat GPT and say, here are the tasks that I want to offload. I need to hire, virtual assistant or social media manager or bookkeeper, whatever it is. Put all those tasks in. What type of experience, what tools do you use in your business? And ask it to create a job description for you. And from there, post it, and start receiving those resumes and looking for people that not only fit what you're looking for, but also, be aware that you want someone who really is passionate about your vision, your mission, your values. So include a little bit about that in your job description too, because, I tell people all the time, you can hire quickly and get someone to do the job, but if it's not a good fit for that specific position, you're probably going to be rehiring again in a year or maybe even sooner than that. And your goal as a small business is to hire for a long time so that you're not having to rehire and you're not having to recreate the wheel. You really want to hire well. And that's again why we have so many resources. We really want to help educate business owners who have never hired or who have hired and maybe made mistakes. Because not only is it a time thief of your time, it also costs you because you're wasting more time having to redo things that you've already done.
Mm, that is gold and such an important element of this this fear that comes up. It's because we think it's going to take too long. It's not worth our while. And this also speaks into
Mm-hmm.
that training element because we do need to, yes, align with people who have similar values and similar belief systems, and so we know that that's a fit. But then there's possibly some skills or some capabilities that we need to train in, and we think, oh, it's going to take me twice as long to train them, then I should just do it myself. Can you speak into that?
Yeah, Chat GPT, again, you can briefly put in some of these things that you do and ask it to create steps. And it may not get it right. You may have to give it more information to make it more accurate. But even if it's not 100% accurate, you've got maybe 80% accuracy and you can go correct the other things that are not quite correct. But even better than that, what I did when I made my first hires is when I was training, we created the SOPs while training. So the standard operating procedures. And so, instead of just teaching and then and dropping it, we taught and recorded it so that it became a living document. So we have it in Google Docs. When there are changes or something like that, it's easily editable, and it's a set reminder, every 6 to 12 months to revisit those and make sure that there's not any changes that need to be updated. So it serves a few different purposes. One is if the new hire forgets how to do something, they have documentation where they can easily refer back to it. They're not having to ask you every single time. And number two, if that person does have to leave for some reason, you're not having to start from scratch. You can train the person with the documentation and the training. It's so much easier that way.
That is such good and important advice.
Mm-hmm.
Your first hire, get them to start doing SOPs right away. You're clear, they're clear. And then if something falls apart, you've got it for the next time. This is how businesses scale and grow and how it gets easier as time goes on.
Back about, I would say maybe 5 years ago, I didn't have any project management tools for my team. And so I hired someone to set up Asana for me. And that was I could have done it, but I didn't want to take the time to do it. So, I hired someone to set it up, and all the different teams and processes and all of those things are in one place. So, like our content calendars in there, our instructions, our notes. So, everybody on the team has access to that. And it's another way to really kind of build those systems and keep progress going forward.
I think you said something really important there too. You said, I could have done it, but I didn't want to take the time to do it. This is a mindset shift that a lot of people have to get to for scaling because we often get stuck in perfection loops like we had talked about. We get stuck in this, I can do it all myself. How can I let go? How we have to, this is the mindset shift we have to grow to. And it's hard. I have a hard time with it. I'll be very honest about that. Like, I have a very hard time asking someone to help me and giving away something that I already do. But I know if I don't, then I can't get to the things I should be doing, the things that actually matter, the things that are the bigger scale things. How do you help women? Do you find a lot of people come to you with this struggle, or do you find women and men are different with this mindset bit around hiring?
I would say most of the interactions, I think, are just through our social media. We occasionally will get an email, from someone, or they'll just use our concierge service and say, "Hey, I don't want to even learn it. Let me just use your service." So on our team, we have an HR professional who will do the entire hiring process for you. So you say, "Hey, I need a bookkeeper. Here's some basics," and she'll write the job description, post it, create the interview questions, interview and then present you with the top 2 or 3 candidates with their recorded interview and say, okay, which one do you like best? And then she'll even attend the second interviews with the business owner. So it really helps save the business owner a ton of time. But even more important, I think, than that is expert opinion. You're getting somebody who's looking at all the right things from an HR perspective, for a long-term hire, and you're not paying these high recruiter fees. So I think that's something that really sets Hire My Mom apart from the big and the small job boards out there. And that's something, it's kind of our feather in our cap, something that we're really proud of. It's just that service and being able to offer it with such an exceptional service, and our HR person, Tasia, everybody just loves and raves about her. So she also works with job seekers who are kind of stuck, and she'll be a personal career strategist, or she'll just do a quick jump start session with someone to either review their resume, look at their cover letter, or just give them a pep talk, tell them, here's what you're good at, here's what you should be looking for. So um, again, I think that hands-on personal service is something that really kind of separates us, and something that we're really proud that we can offer.
It's smart because you're doing done for you services and you're doing do it yourself services. And this is the ecosystem that we can build to help people at any stage of wherever they're at, wherever their budget's at, wherever their time, whether they're time rich or time poor. And that's really special. Yeah.
I'd love to wrap up with some advice. As a mom, you have kids from, you said, age 30 to a senior in high school. So you've seen them grow up, you've seen them come into the workforce. What advice would you give seniors in high school, younger people now who are about to step into, or those graduating college, into the workforce? You see what it looks like. You see that history of our parents and stuff all pushed us towards corporate jobs and go get safe jobs and all these things, but you come from a very different perspective of really seeing the workforce in a much grander scale. What advice would you give anyone who's out there stepping into the world, looking forward to a future? Where do you see things going, and what would you like to tell them?
Yeah. I think instead of focusing on the finances, a lot of kids say, oh, I want to be a doctor because I'm going to make $1 billion. But is that something you're passionate about? Because if you hate it, how long are you going to last as a doctor? And one of our daughters, went to nursing school, and she practiced for less than a year, and it just wasn't for her. She thought it would be. And I think that's a little bit sometimes hard to know once you get in there and you're doing the gritty, dirty work that it's not your favorite. But now she's found something that she is passionate about within that same industry. And I think that's the key, is finding what your passion is. That I mentioned, I started working from she now is my right hand lady. She's my growth strategist, my social media person, but she also is very passionate about health and wellness. So, in addition to that, she has her own, she does hair scans, hair follicle scans, because she struggled with Hashimoto's and thyroid disease as a young college kid and overcame it through natural healing. So, it's like her platform, something she's very passionate about. So, she loves both things. And I love that she has the flexibility working from home to do both. And I think that's the key, is finding something that really ignites your heart, and knowing there's something out there that you can do to make a living doing that. You may not know right off the bat. Our youngest, who's a senior, is going off to college. I mentioned she's, going to play college volleyball. She's very entrepreneurial, and she knows that she loves that side, and she also loves the finance side. So I think she'll be a double major, but she's already realizing that she wants to do something that ignites her heart, that she's passionate about, that's entrepreneurial. And it's just, you can tell when someone loves what they're doing, because I've been at this for 30 years now, and I still love what I'm doing, because it just ignites my heart to help the two audiences that we serve, because I'm both a parent and a small business owner. So I fit in both shoes, if you will. And I just love helping both of them. It really is something that, I'm thankful that I'm passionate about it, because it's not, I never get up dreading, like, oh, I have to go to work today. Some days are hard, obviously. Some days you get that 1-star review, like I did today, my very first 1-star review. And it really, was not a fun day because I had all 5-star reviews and I was like, oh, that's not fair. It's not fun. But you know what? You're not going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be someone who finds flaws in what you do because you're not perfect. Your business isn't perfect, but I still love what I do.
Well, that's amazing advice to round out this conversation. To find the thing that you're passionate about, find that thing that feels purposeful, and
Hmm.
go for it with everything, knowing that there's lots of ways to make a living in this world. And I love hearing more entrepreneurial kids out there. My son's an entrepreneur too, and I want them to be able to build the type of life that they desire and build better businesses, right?
Hmm.
That are more flexible, that serve more people, that, we can, yeah, really find joy and passion and happiness within. So
Yes.
thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. It's an important one to have. As a mom, I appreciate you and what you do for other moms and the platform that you have to help connect the right people to the right places and find their passion and purpose. It's
Yeah,
beautiful. Great
absolutely.
ecosystem. Thank
Thank
you.
you both. It's been a delightful conversation.
It has. Thank you, Lesley. Thank you.